We're jumping in with a review on the Guillotine heavy battle mech. And in this vlog, I'm going to approach it from the perspective of a mech commander in charge of this mech, because I have never played this mech and I've never played against this mech. And that's one of the exciting things about Battletech. Given the diversity of mechs, the different timelines, all the different machines that you can field. And that's before we even get into variants, official variants, customized variants, different mechs. There is always something new to discover. There's always something new to potentially add for your lance and see how to approach it. So I approach it from the perspective, if it's a mech that I've never played, we put it through kind of an analysis looking at the two primary points. The first is, how does this mech operate by itself? Not that we're going to send off a mech on its own. We never want to do that. We want to stay with a lance. We want to stay with a support group with some tanks, infantry, if there's combined arms. But once we've locked into that range where it's mech versus mech, almost side by side, what are we going to try and do? And then second, looking at a matrix of the battle value, the tonnage, and the weapons, what kind of lance would this machine work with? Or what other mechs would complement it so we can build on those strengths? And certainly every mech has a weakness, some more than others. How can we minimize the weaknesses? So that's kind of the briefing that we're going to explore. And then, of course, in the comments, I'm sure there are some mech warriors that play this mech regularly. And it'll be interesting to see and hear your insights into the machine. So we jump in, heavy mech. We've got a lot of tonnage to work with. We've got a lot of different configurations, a lot of different ways that this can go. Jumping in at 70 tons, it's not the heaviest mech that's out there, but it's kind of T-bolt territory. You've got a lot of different ways that you can play with it, a lot of different ways that you can go. We're looking at a large laser for the primary weapon in the arm, four medium lasers, two would have been solid, four, and an SRM 6-pack. So primarily an energy-based machine, but we do have a 6-pack, which, depending on the Tactica, could possibly be a liability, because one of the things that you see in heavier mechs, you've got a lot of armor, and we're going to do our best not to get hit, but anytime that there is ammo, usually in heavier mechs, they mount the tonnage and the heat sinks where their primary arm weapon or their primary weapons will be energy-based. PPCs, large lasers, medium lasers, where on medium mechs or lighter machines, the primary arm weapon will be an autocannon for space and size. But from that perspective, you have ammo. A heavier machine mounting primarily energy-based weapons, the vulnerability comes if there's one or two, or even one ammo-based machine. Hopefully it's case. Hopefully you're exploring that aspect, because if it goes to the ammo, depending on the machine, that could potentially be a problem. Not with the Guillotine and the case, but in exploring that is the matrix that we look at. So I look and say, if it's a heavier machine and it's got ammo-based, we have to kind of potentially balance that. So that's not unique to heavier type mechs. I do like the 6-pack because it's not a 2, it's not a 4, it's a 6. If we've got the tonnage and we're going to mount a 6-pack, because that works very, very well with the medium lasers. We're going to kind of keep that in mind as we go. Very, very important. And of course, looking at heat sinks, does it have the heat sinks to regularly fire things and keep that moving? Well, it does. It comes in at 25 heat sinks. So we've got a primarily energy-based mech with decent armor, good heat sinks, and the ability to shoot that. We also have jump jets. Now that's interesting. You know, jump jets on a heavy mech is opening up the Tactica. Usually in the lances that I play, my heavy mech will be the Victor, where we're going to get up close. We're going to utilize that. We also see that with the Grasshopper. There are other mechs that have jump jets, but it's not a given. So as soon as that is injected in there, I ask myself, if this mech has access to jump jets, how is that going to pair in with the weapons? Is that going to allow that weapons profile to potentially do something, taking advantage of initiative? Initiative is going to be key. We jump in. Large laser. First thought for Fritz, PPC, right? Should it be a PPC? Well, we lose a little bit of damage. We gain a little bit of heat. a large laser is solid. It works with the 25 heat sinks. It's going to be able to blast away with that. So we're going to be very aggressive. As soon as we're in range, we're going to start trying to light stuff up with the large laser. When we close, having 4 medium lasers and the locations of 2 of them in each torso, that's going to be hard to dislodge. That combined with the SRM-6 means that this machine wants to operate at medium to close range. With the large laser in there, that continues to take advantage of that. We don't have the minimums as with the PPC. So we lose a little bit, but we gain this nice synergy I see with that. 4 medium lasers on a heavy mech, the ability to light them up and fire them. Fire 4 medium lasers and the SRM 6-pack and kind of keep heat in check. That's a close-in volley. If I'm willing to push the heat at a minimum, not with the large laser, but if I close to point-blank range and I'm going to do medium lasers, SRM 6, and movement, that's going to put a few blips on the heat, but I'm going to fire everything. That's big. That's like potentially Alpha Strike without the massive heat spike of an Alpha Strike. So we see a mech that as it closes, as soon as it's in range, I'm firing that large laser. I want to operate at medium to close range, and I want to use those medium lasers. I want to use that SRM-6. The medium lasers are hopefully firing, hitting different areas, opening up potential spots for internals, for crits, and then the SRM-6 is going to split and hopefully hit those. So that synergy is good. I like that it's the 6-pack. 4 changes the spread, changes the damage. 2 is almost like, I don't know, is it really worth it? So I see this as kind of an updated T-Bolt, a solid frontline smash type trooper type mech. Okay, well, then we jump in with the jump jets. Then we're going to explore a lance. So if we've got some infantry, if we've got some initiative, this is a machine that I see wants to move last. I want to have it move last in the initiative because those jump jets allow it to potentially get into some interesting positions. I mean, if we can take advantage of rear armor, if we can take advantage of if a person, mech warrior, is trying to hide left side of the mech because there's internals, we can get to that. Usually what you see with a lot of heavy mechs, they've got the firepower for the damaged side or rear armor strike, but they have to get there. And there's ways to have terrain and kind of block things in the initiative. Jump jets, there's still an art to it, makes it that much easier. We also see, look, I'm just going to say it, tabletop glory, death from above. Death from above at 70 tons is massive. So, that crosses my mind for the lulls. A punch and kick type machine. We've got the tonnage for that where we can punch and kick. It's going to take out the hand weapons, the arm weapons, but you've still got those torso weapons. It just works from a very, very solid perspective. So I see this as an upgraded T-Bolt, very, very solid type trooper type mech. Now, what is it going to work with? That's what we're going to jump in. And then we've got a request for thoughts on a custom variant. And we'll just kind of explore that a little bit too, jumping in. So I see this machine working with a heavy, close-in type lance. I'm not going to put a rifleman in there. I'm not going to put a Jaeger mech. I'm not going to put something that can plink away. I don't even know if an archer would be a good combination, meaning a lance that is split or a lance that is spread out where when we're far away, my Archer, my LRM 20 packs are going to shoot. Then as we get closer, PPCs, then as we get closer, this is a machine that wants to be a part of a lance that's going to be very aggressive and wants to get up there directly. So I would want this to work with other mechs that have PPCs or large lasers to complement the way in. But that way in is constant. It's not like I'm going to hang back a little bit and fire some 15s or 20s and then maybe advance to the next. No, we're going straight in, point and click. Here's where we are. Here's where we're going. We're going to do that. I'd also want to pair it with similar mechs. If I just take the 2 mechs that I love to play, Marauder and Warhammer, I would want to pair this more with the Warhammer than the Marauder. And we're just using this as an example because, of course, the mechs you want to play in the battle value. Marauder kind of wants to hang back a little bit. wants to use that autocannon, wants to use the 2 PPCs. It does have the 2 medium lasers, but it wants to kind of hang back and play that range game and then potentially close. That's not making use of the full battle value of the Guillotine here, which means potentially you could be firing that large laser if you're in range, but the mediums and the SRM, they're not going to be doing anything. Compare that if it's paired with a Warhammer or, Battlemaster's an assault mech, or Battlemaster. Well, we're just looking at Warhammer, right? Warhammer moves in as the heavy. It's got the PPCs, and that's firing. That complements the large laser on the Guillotine. But then the Warhammer wants to close. It wants to utilize its lasers. It wants to utilize its SRM. It wants to even utilize those machine guns. So we're going to explore it from that perspective. So complementing it. We're jumping in. We're finishing off. Then we're going to turn it over to you guys. Jumping in with the 3N variant. This has double heat sinks and essentially upgraded lasers. So we're putting in some clan tech and pushing it from that perspective. That just makes this a lot deadlier, right? Double the heat sinks. If you're going to swap out and put in ER or worse, worse isn't better, pulse lasers and push that perspective in, that's going to take this frontline energy brawling type mech, increase the range or increase the damage. I would rather increase the damage because even with ER type weapons, we want to get point blank. This is a machine where I'm like, I've got those 4 medium lasers and the SRM-6. I want to be 3 hexes away from you. I've got the armor to blast away a little bit, take a couple of hits. I mean, I'm going to try not to, but I could take it. Are you going to be able to outlast my barrage? Are you going to be able to outlast also that large laser? And pushing that in, the double heat sinks just make it beast. Even if you were going to do somewhere in between and kind of mix tech and do double heat sinks and just keep the current energy weapons, that turns it into a very, very deadly machine also. The question I would ask, and there's no right or wrong kind of way to look at this, do you really need the upgraded aspect? Is it worth it based on the battle value you're going to play? Now, I mean, if you're playing like some elite comm guard type lance, the battle value is going to be up there like the clans. You're paying for that novel tech. It's part of the narrative and you're using it. But if I just look at the machine and if I just look at the battle value, is it worth the added battle value that's going to take away from some other assets on the table when the stock base mechs works very, very interesting as it is? So I'm going to turn it over to you guys, fellow mech warriors that pilot this machine. And if you're a mech commander like myself exploring it, what are you looking at and how should we look at it?